Let's give Alderman Clark a hand for the work that he has done over these past 13 and a half months. Truly, I'm so glad that he is a part of this council. I can't imagine me being on the part of this council without Alderman Clark being on this council with me.
All right.
Preach, brother.
It probably been the second time in my life that I actually quit or something. Because he has made it definitely helpful, you know, when you have someone that's fighting with you. You know, they don't like being, you know, they don't like getting jumped by 5, 6 different people. You fighting and swinging, but you're going to have a whole lot of knots somewhere. You know, but when you got somebody else fighting and swinging with you, you know, you ain't going to have as many abuses, right? Many Pumpkinhead Deluxe, right? But truly, this is what it's all about right here. Right here, these third ward meetings. This is where I believe that the fight will be lost or won. Right here, you know, and what we do from here, you know, and that's why it's so important that these call to actions are not taken lightly, and these solution-oriented, you know, ideas that we either collectively come up with or individually come up with and share. Because here's the definition of familism, and you can check this out in the dictionary. I didn't even know this word exists. I was actually preparing for a speech, and they wanted me to talk about family. And it's partly, you know, why I was even motivated to even speak at the graduation ceremony that Alderman Clark spoke of. I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at Nino's Heroes Academy that's located at 83rd and Commercial. They had their graduation ceremony at South Shore High School. I spoke there last year, and I guess I was good enough to actually come back. But it's a blessing to help people, and encourage them along the way. There was a 2016 graduating class, right? But in my speech, I said, let's give it up for the class of 2020. And they were like, 2016. I was like, 2016? I was like, this is the class of 2020, right? And they was like, oh, yeah. I said, so let's give it up for the class of 2020. Because I was talking to them about vision. This is what they are now, but we have to see them graduating from high school in 2020 and see them graduate from college in 2024. Because Helen Keller said that there's only one thing that's worse than being blind, and that's having eyesight with no vision.
There you go.
So even while we're here in this third ward meeting today and the next one, we have to have vision of how we plan on seeing Harvey, you know, over the next few years. And it's just, we've been blessed to be a part of such a time as this, because we truly do have, you know, an alderman who has vision and who believes in best practices. And we have made some tough decisions. Some seem tougher than others. And I'm just mentioning this right quick. I don't know how many people was actually at the meeting on this past Monday when they had on the agenda for us to vote on naming the street sign for Muhammad Ali. And they were kind of blown away at the fact that we voted it down. You know, it's just a sign. It's Muhammad Ali. He was the greatest.
He'd be embarrassed. He'd be embarrassed. He'd be insulted. He'd be insulted. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. And in addition to it, he would be insulted. It's not priority.
No, it's not. How much does it say?
It's not priority. Priority is fixing the street signs that's falling apart, that's falling down, that's faded. The stop signs that's faded. The do not enter signs that's faded. You know, the potholes.
Say that again.
You know,
Oh my God.
Whenever you put a brand new street sign and then the sign underneath it is faded, you can't even tell what the name of it is. You know, who does that? You know, a person who has no vision for the city. That's a person who is selfish and has an agenda that does not spell community. That definition of familism is where there's a group of people who decides to put their individual needs to the side for the greater good of the entire group.
Right.
That's right.
Now that's true family. And that's what Alderman Clark is dedicated to building in this community, you know, where we might not get that, you know, 3 foot high grass or 4 foot high grass cut, you know, next tomorrow or next week. Even though he personally, I don't know how many lots he's up to now.
25.
Okay, I about to say last time I checked, it was at 19. You know, we pulled up and it was one day it was raining, and we pulled up probably about 5 o'clock in the evening or so, and he had been out there cutting himself since 8 that morning. And the only reason why he stopped because it started raining. Then while we were sitting on the porch talking, it had stopped raining, and then he went on to finish some more. You know, so that's the kind of leader that we have here, and this is just the beginning. So I just want to encourage you to take heed and to take action, because commitment is doing what you said you was going to do long after the feeling you said it in has left you. Okay, so today we're feeling good, and we're going to make some commitments to get the word out, you know, to make certain phone calls to certain agencies. And we need you to keep that commitment 2-3 days from now, a week from now, you know, when that left knee that you had surgery on is it's caused you some problems and kind of got stiff a little bit, you know, or probably took you about 10 minutes to get out the bed. You know, you have to, stretch out a little bit, and then you start thinking about laying back down. You know, I'm only talking from personal experience now. You know, I ain't see nobody get out the bed in here. But being able to keep that commitment beyond today. Okay, and I just want to encourage you to do just that, and I'm looking forward to this fight, because, and I'm going to repeat some words that Chris said that I agree with. He said, we're in a condition, our city is in a condition where we need to be writing about, and I'm going to see if I can recall the number correctly, about 50 pieces of legislation, new legislation a month for the next 3 years, you know, just to get things in order so that we can have a functionable government, and we'll be able to run pretty smoothly. So that's the train we need to get on. I'm looking forward to riding the train with you, my brother.
Here we go. All right. And I mean, before you start, you had a question. Was it for Alderman Brown?
I have, no, speaking for both of y'all.
Yes, sir.
I used to be a union rep. And the minute certain bosses found out who I was, because I kept a low profile, I immediately got a target on my back. Both of you got targets on the back, I can see.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just got to keep it moving, because you know how hard it is to hit a moving target, right?
I will. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Got Jesus.
Obviously, we realize that the monies that were initially allocated to the ward to help maintain the ward, move the lawns and everything else, and trim the trees, and that money has been reverted back to street and sanitation. I think that the aldermen now know how important it is for them to add that slush money, and even to have an increased slush money for them to be able to get by the wards. So I am really recommending that as we move forward, that you you may make a point to have that money returned back into the, what do you call that, the companies, at the expense account of the owner. Because without that, you yourself can see how your hands are tied and you have to do all this work that normally would be done by having some contractor there and getting this work done. So let's make it a priority. This is my recommendation for that to be done, where the money can return in your expense account and you can go back to doing what you need to do.
I agree. I agree. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to try to run through some things real fast. Some of the things we've actually talked about already. One, thanks again to all of you for coming, because this was not a widely publicized ward meeting. Of course, I passed out the calendar, but even though I passed out the calendar, for some reason, I maybe that calendar made it people's garbage cans instead of refrigerators. So I got to try to find a better way of doing that. Some people knew about the ward meeting because they have downloaded the app. If you've downloaded the cell phone app, I want to thank you very much. And if you haven't downloaded the cell phone app, I want to encourage you to please do so. And please get other people to do so as well. And then some people just run into me, and some people just call my phone like crazy and say, and did I say this say? No, I'm just kidding. But people call me and they say, when is our next meeting? So I'm grateful for that as well. So thank you so much for coming, because all of you are so important. And I honestly believe that it's the people in this room who will make up the leadership of what our third ward will be going forward. Hopefully this thing only has a little bit of juice, but we'll see how far we can get with it. Okay, so we already talked about grass cutting. Basically, this is some of the work. And you know what? I realized as I was doing this PowerPoint presentation that I was so tired when I was taking some pictures. Some pictures I didn't take before, some pictures I didn't take after. Some pictures I don't know what was happening, but this one I think I got one here. Yeah. Okay. It's funny. It was some young guys out there. This is 154th and Honorary, and it was some young guys out there, and they were actually asking and saying that they would help as well. And it's a dual lot. So on this side is actually more another house. And that grass was absolutely horrible and really thick. This is, I think, 154th place between Honorary and Roby. Yeah, and you see the stop sign, the grass is all the way up to the stop sign. So when you come down, and that's one of the things we're going to try to do too, health and safety issues. So these are the things. When you pull to the curb, to the corner, you can't see left or right because the grass is so high and you don't know. And in this particular case, at 154th place between Honorary and Roby, it's not a four-way stop. So the cars coming north and south have no stop sign. And so you can't see those cars, then you got a slight problem. So it's a humongous field. Let's see. This is a part of the field, so I can't do it. Sorry. But what I can do is I can try to cut some of it so that I can open it up a little bit to reduce the health and safety risk as far as travel is concerned. So that's basically what it is. This is on the Roby side. And so when you look here, actually, if you go down on 154th place in Roby, you'll see where it actually has an angle going there, so to create the line of sight so that people can see. This, that's how it looked before. This is the after, so that people can at least see a little bit. And just trying to do as much as we possibly can. I think that this one is Lincoln. Yeah, this was right down the street. And then, like I said, it's not beautiful, but we get the grass down. News, Harvey Mayor fine banned from future bond deals after the hotel scheme. Is anyone not aware of this? Anyone? Okay, you're not aware of it? Okay, so basically, let's go there. Yeah, Mayor of Harvey agreed to pay a fine of $10,000 for his role in allegedly, says, tricking investors into lending his town millions for what turned out to be a sketchy development deal that enriched, a key insider, the Securities and Exchange Commission announced Thursday. So to make it kind of brief, the hotel on 173rd in Austin, it used to be the Holiday Inn and it eventually became the Chicago Park Hotel. There was a $14 million bond for that hotel. For, not necessarily for you, but for people who are probably watching this later, bonds are basically loans to the city. Okay? The city basically takes out a loan on behalf of the city and to use for special projects. Those are revenue bonds, or for projects in general, those are general obligation bonds. So the city took out a bond specifically to renovate that hotel. I've always asked the question, why is the city in the hotel business? But I guess that's beyond my pay grade. So the city took out the bond, $14 million, to renovate the hotel. Have you seen the hotel lately? Okay. If you go over there, it's where the old Wicks used to be, next to the old Wicks. You go over there, you'll see that none of that work was done. So the Security and Exchange Commission, and people weren't paying. So the Security and Exchange Commission decided that they were going to investigate to find out basically why the bond was taken out. It was supposed to be used for the hotel, but the hotel was not done. And the reason why this is important is because the hotel was supposed to be rebuilt. It was supposed to generate money. And in generating funds, those funds would pay back they're not interested in whether we were duped, even though we're the ones that have to pay back the loan through our taxes. They were interested in whether the investors were duped. So, at the end of the day, a portion of it was used for everything else other than what it was supposed to be used for. And basically, in the short term, that's a violation of law. So the Securities and Exchange Commission investigated, and that's what they came up with. And the mayor had to pay a $10,000 fine, and he can no longer be engaged in bonds in municipalities ever again. Now, that was the Chicago Tribune. So just to add a little bit to it, this is actually the SEC's, the Securities and Exchange Commission's press release. Mayor in Illinois settles muni bond fraud charges. Basically, it says the Securities and Exchange Commissions today announced, can you move that up just a little bit for me, Kimani, that the mayor, because I know it's going to truncate after a while. Thank you. That the mayor of Harvey, Illinois has agreed to pay $10,000 and never participate in a municipal bond offering again in order to settle fraud charges. Quote, investors were told one thing while the city did another, and Kellogg was in a position to control the bond issuances and prevent any fraudulent use of investor money. His days of participating in muni bond offerings are over, unquote, said Leanne Gazelle-Grant, chief of the SEC Enforcement Division's Public Finance Abuse Unit. So that's just a little brief overview as far as what happened. If you want to discuss it more, we can, of course, but I want to try to move on so we can, because I've already taken enough of your time. But those types of things is how we end up in this particular situation, which it still remains. This was actually a slide from my last presentation, but it's still here. It didn't go away just because the slide went away. It's still here. Source from 14 million to 64 million audit show. Okay. One thing that I also found out the other day as I was preparing for this, and you'll be interested to know this, Alderman Brown, is that they actually had those audits back in June of 2015. All the audits that they presented to us, that was in February of 2016, they had already had those audits. And they held them.
Who did the audits?
Who did the audits? What is it? Amin? Is it Lauterbach and Amin? Yeah.
And they certified?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they are certified.
All right.
But the thing about it is that's information that we needed to know a year prior.
I know.
That was held, and I got a problem with that, and I'm going to be working to deal with that to figure out why that happened.
So it's more than $64 million in there, and they did 2000 audits for 2015?
No. We need to lift this up a little bit here.
I'm gonna use one of these computers as a stand.
That might work. I think that'll work. So, no, it's still about 64 million. And mind you, 64 million is based on what they can track. The auditors in their audit said that they didn't have all the information that they believe that they should have. Don't worry about it, Mr. Oh, it's okay. Thank you. No, that's taking us too far. Now you're cutting off the top. Yeah. It'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. So there's a lot out there that we just don't know, bottom line. But we know at least that much. And that's not a pretty number. So what I want to talk to you today basically are best practices. Because this is the thing that I want to make sure that you and everyone else in the city of Harvey have in their vernacular going forward. Okay. When you look at a successful city, first of all, I was at a Les Brown event, a motivational speaker, and you know, it was either him or Jim Rohn. I think it was Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn said something to the effect that successful people do what other successful people do.
Yes.
Would everyone in this room agree with that?
Yes.
Successful people do what other successful people do. So when you start to look at communities, I think that correlates, translates over to communities. When you start to look at community building, successful communities do what other successful communities do. So you can take a trip down 159th and Halsted. Okay, travel south, go over I-80, and all of a sudden you see a totally different world and universe going on that is different from what we see here in the city of Harvey. And the one thing that I think that differentiates what's going on the south end of I-80 versus what's going on the north end of I-80 is this thing here, best practices, and the lack thereof in the city of Harvey. And so in the city of Harvey, well, basically in the city of Homewood, you get Portillo's, Menards, Jewel, Home Depot, you get Walmart, and they're building the new Walmart that's moving from Glenwood down there. You get Taco Bell, Potbelly's, Chipotle, a party store, Best Buy, and let's just keep on going, you know, Speedway, or White Castles, or Wendy's, a Delta Sonic, a new car dealership, a Jimmy John's, a Pizza Hut, a Wingstop. Let's just keep, what was that? And a Walgreens, you know what I'm saying? And the NB Financial Bank on the corner, you know, and then a whole new redevelopment that was redeveloped about 10 years ago. But when I used to eat meat, they sold some really good gyros. So you get all of that from best practices. And then you come over to the city of Harvey, where there are no best practices, there's just deals. And with deals, you get strip clubs and gas stations and liquor stores, you know, and clubs, and payday loans, and things of that nature. Okay, no best practices. So, what are best practices? Best practices are procedures that are accepted or prescribed as being correct or most effective. Best practices are procedures that are accepted or prescribed as being correct or most effective. So that basically means that there may be other ways to do what it is that you want to have done. But we are talking about ways that are accepted or prescribed as being correct or most effective. So here's our problem right here. This is the problem with Harvey. And you see, it's 2 screws. And if you had to screw in 2 screws, just from the audience, how would you go about, let's put it this way, give me some of the ways that you could get those screws screwed in. What was that? Phillips screwdriver. What's another way that you could try to screw in a screw? Possibly with a flathead. Any other way that you could possibly pick. And even if it's not a Phillips, just to say it was a standard, how could you screw it in?
You need to drill a hole first, because that's wood.
Drill a hole first. What was some of
One
that?
at a time.
One at a time. Yeah. But what would you use to screw it in?
The proper tool.
Juice. But let's name some of the other things that you use. Because we use it. Don't tell me everybody in here, all of a sudden, every time they get a screw, they always use the proper tool every single time. A dime, a butter knife, scissors. So and a lot of times when we do that, a good portion of the times, we're pretty successful. It takes us a little bit more, but we're pretty successful with getting that screw in. It may not be the most secure, and we're actually just thanking and praising God that it's over because we was able to get the screw in the first place. But like Ms. Bessie said, but there is a best practice for screwing in a screw. And what is that? A screwdriver. And the screwdriver is the best practice. It's a way for you to get a lot of things done. You can use dimes and nickels and scissors and butter knives and all the other things to try to screw in a screw. But there is a best practice. And that best practice is the thing, the procedure that is accepted or prescribed as being correct or the most effective. So just think about the times you've probably taken shortcuts, I know that I have, and then at the end of the day, I said, man, I wish I would have just did it the right way at the beginning. Because then it wouldn't have taken me so long, or I wouldn't have gone through so much agony in order to do it. So, recently, in 2015, the city asked the court, the federal court, to seal some important documents that were related to the city's finances. Okay? And the majority of the alderpersons were not aware that they were going to seal these documents, nor were we aware, nor had we given our consent that they could do so. We had not even seen the documents that they had planned on sealing. Okay. So, well, that's a problem. But fortunately, with the efforts of several people, residents, we were able to have a conversation with the attorneys from the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the Securities and Exchange Commission moved to unseal those documents. Now, the reason why I say it the way that I say it is because I want everyone to understand that it was residents that helped us to do this. Okay? And the residents helped us to do it. And the residents said, you know, this is unacceptable. We need to do something about it. And they went with us downtown. And when they went downtown, they helped us to convince the Securities and Exchange Commission to unseal those documents. And the following day, I got an email saying, we're going to move to unseal those documents. And they did. So in those documents, the document was basically the independent consultant's report. Along with the SEC investigation, part of the settlement was that the city had to have an independent consultant to review what the city was doing as far as its processes and procedures. Okay, let's go back. Best practices. And see what the city's doing and figure out why is it in the condition that it's in and why is there the possibility for fraud in the city. So what did the document say? Okay. And I just had to basically kind of give a synopsis, but every word that's in this is a direct quote from the document. So I did not add anything to it. This is just what they said. Okay. First, account reconciliation. This is in financial reporting. Okay, somebody help me out here.
Move it.
Yeah, can everybody see that okay? Oh, okay. All right, as long as everybody, I just don't want it to be truncated. Okay, that's fine. In financial reporting, account reconciliations for significant accounts, for example, bank accounts, account receivables, and account payables, were not being performed on a timely basis. Expenditures out of the tax increment funds, TIF, and payments made to developers were not being appropriately reviewed and tracked by Harvey. City of Harvey is using an accounting software package that is outdated and provides minimal support for problems. Now, let me put a pin in that one real quick and have a little side note. We allegedly purchased an accounting software system. We don't know if it's actually being used or not. We just know that we knew that a new accounting software system was needed, but would you agree that's about as far as it goes, Alderman Brown? That's about all that we know. So we don't know exactly how it's being used. We haven't seen any reports from it. And it's not to accuse anybody of anything at this particular time, but it's just to say that we're not aware of that. Hopefully in the next month or two we will be. The approval process of expenditures, including significant expenditures, is not consistent, which has led to difficulties in obtaining support for various expenditure approvals at the board level. Towing and parking revenue reconciliation differences. Grant administration needs strengthening. Lack of policies related to fund balances, investments, capital assets, or expense reimbursements, and financial statements should be completed within 6 months of the fiscal year to ensure the financial statements are not reporting stale information that provides minimal value to the users of the financial statements. And to give you an example, stale information, the audits. What are we going to do with the 2009 audit now? It's 2016. Everything has changed since then. So it's very difficult to even use the 2009 audit going forward to make sure that we have this good information. But that's a whole nother conversation. A general ledger. The ERP solution that the city of Harvey utilizes for the general ledger system, water billings, and accounts payable is ACS, a Xerox company. The existing workflow process is not documented. A process for change controls authorization with the ACS customer service representative is not formally documented. The current record to report workflow configuration needs to be reviewed and adjusted to provide enhanced financial reporting outcomes. Although an outsourced controller has been engaged to manage the city's finance, the processes for closing the books on a monthly and annual basis should be documented. Payroll and human resources. There are segregation of duties issues within the payroll and human resources function, as many of the tasks are performed by one person. For example, this control deficiency could lead to the risk, could increase the risk of fraud. I'm going to say that one again. For example, this control deficiency could increase the risk of fraud, such as an individual being able to set up a new employee and enter payroll for them without having to go through any approvals.
He approves himself.
So basically, goes payroll. The current ERP Paycor system experiences periodic failed readings for the biometric system designed to track time and attendance, which begs the question of current systems has reliability. The fire department does not use the Paycor system at all due to the nature of their shifts, thus all payroll authorizations are manual. Besides, the individual who enters payroll into the Paycor system, there is no system in place for a second review. So basically, someone can manipulate time, and there's no one to double check
Still time.
to make sure that it's proper. And on a side note, seeing that we don't have any idea, at least I as an alderman, I don't believe Alderman Brown does, has a total clue of who actually works for the city anyway, because we can't get any payroll documents, even though they've been requested again and again. This is very important. Shadow systems. Spreadsheets have been used by department heads to compensate for the payroll system's unreliability. The use of spreadsheets to enter time into the payroll system increases the risk of human error and or unapproved transactions. The process for tracking and monitoring paid time off through spreadsheets is a manual process that is susceptible to human error and inaccuracies. There are no detective controls designed to determine if an employee is eligible to receive compensated for paid time off prior to the processing of payroll. The existing job descriptions are not complete and needs to be updated. Finally, I think it's the last one, accounts payable and cash disbursement. Once again, all of these are directly from the report. I did not change a comma, a semicolon, a period, nothing. Controls surrounding the ability to add vendors to the accounts payable system do not exist. Controls designed to ensure that invoices are reviewed, coded properly to general ledger accounts, are approved and submitted to finance from department heads for payment are unclear. Department heads currently do not have timely information to review their expenditures against budgets. There is no formal process for reviewing active versus inactive vendors from the accounts payable system. There is no formal process for determining whether vendors have been debarred prior to approving certain vendors for contracts. The process for initiating, approving, and executing bank electronic payments is not documented. Oh, we got one more? That is? Okay. Now, here's where we start to find out exactly what's going on with all of that that was stated previously. Based on our discussions with the City of Harvey personnel, reviews of the documentation provided, and along with the following, the COSO Integrated Framework, see Exhibit 1, we have concluded that the existing internal control maturity framework is generally unreliable and informal. And those are the things that I think that we really need to pay attention to. They are unreliable and informal, see Exhibit 2. This initial assessment is largely based on an internal control environment that lacks complete policies of key controls that are required to reduce and or mitigate the inherent and control risk as defined above. Now, let's go back to this COSO integrated framework. Before we get there, in order for an entity's system of internal controls to be effective, the revised COSO framework states that each of the 5 components of internal control and relevant principles should be present, designed appropriately and placed in operation and functionally, effectively operated, and that the 5 components be operated together in an integrated manner. So here are the 5. Control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring activities, okay? And then all is divided up in operations, reporting, compliance, entity, division, and I'm reading sideways now, operating unit and function. But these 5 need to be in place. Without these 5 being in place, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for more fraud. This report came out in December of 2015. Once again, we were not aware of it because this was a sealed document. But the city was aware of it, and the city is the one who had it sealed. Okay, I gotta make sure I get that out there again. The city was aware of these problems. The city was aware that changes needed to be made in December of 2015. But instead of making the changes, the city sealed the document so that no one else would know that these changes were needed. Okay? So I hope that's hitting home with you.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this is how that framework works out. Now, let's go specifically to what the report, the assessment said that we were. So on the further end, we have optimized integrated internal controls with real-time monitoring by management and continuous improvement. And then, of course, we have unreliable, which is unpredictable environment where control activities are not designed or in place. And once again, it said that our internal control maturity framework is generally unreliable and informal. So it's saying that this is where we are on the left end here. We are unpredictable environment where control activities are not designed or in place, and our control activities are designed, some of our control activities are designed in place, but are not adequately documented. So when you look at how we operate financially as a city, we're operating somewhere within this realm. We don't want to be here. We want to be here. And when you look at other communities that operate, they're operating here. So what does all of that mean? We'll get that to a minute in a minute, and I'll be wrapping up. But what does that mean? And why are we doing some of the things that we're doing? Okay. So we had an economic development opportunity recently in the city to bring a fuel center to 171st and Halston, which I would say watch the weekly address tomorrow, because I'll go into a little bit more about that tomorrow on the video. But the bottom line is that particular economic development opportunity did not follow best practices. Why are we fighting for committees? We're not fighting for committees just because we want committees to exist. We are fighting for committees because committees are part of a best practice that is used in other successful communities. So let's go back. Successful people do what other successful people do. Successful communities do what other successful communities do. But if you're going to bypass committees, you're going to bypass the best practices, and you're just going to basically, like a monopoly, go directly to go, then there's always the opportunity, or let's put it this way, a good majority of the time, the possibility for failure exists. Okay? There's no 3 things that we've been fighting for. Can anybody in this room name the 3 things that we've been fighting for since May 11, 2015? Well, the committees, but specifically as it refers to, one begins with a T, one begins transparency, oversight, and accountability. Those things are key. And until we have them, we're not going to reach the level of success that we need that other communities do. So,
But if you, sorry,
yes, sir.
but if you have those monitoring tools, which is your oversight, but the whole system remains in an unreliable state, and it hasn't even come up to at least being standardized, so that you can rely on the information that is presented. If we don't get to that point, even if you had oversight, you would have oversight on insufficiently accurate information, unreliable information. So how do we move to a point where we can at least have standardized internal control systems?
Well, some of that is through legislation, okay? The legislative piece, which Alderman Brown had also discussed a few minutes ago, the legislative piece. The other thing that we have to make sure, as far as myself and the other aldermen are concerned, and the mayor as well, we need more training. So we can actually know what we're doing, so we can help to create those standardized things. The other thing is, one of the things that successful communities do is they actually take the time to hire the properly trained, educated people, qualified persons with a track history of experience and background and success to actually implement some of these things. Okay? That's one of the things that they do. They don't just go grab no offense church people, but they don't just go grab the local reverend and say, local reverend, because you built your own house, I want you to be my economic development chair. They go and get the proper people, the proper experts to do the proper job. Yes, sir.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback on the fact that besides that, you got to have viable rules that you're gonna follow. Because you can bring in the best people in the world, you can educate the people, but if you find somebody or two people in your outfit that are gonna try to circumvent and do what they wanna do, it's gonna fail. So if you got rules they must follow, that's what you also need. What rules do we have in Harvard?
And first of all, you're absolutely correct. And when somebody violates the rule, whether it's me or someone else, you should be upset.
Amen.
You should be hot, okay, because of that. Well, one of the things that, that this has said is that basically we don't have rules.
That's right.
And that's why we have an unpredictable environment where control activities are not designed or in place. We don't have those rules in general. Now we have, for our council meetings, we have Robert Rules of Order, which I am really trying to figure out how that works because,
He's not following.
okay, there you go. That's where my confusion is. Then. Okay, he's not following. But, and then you have state statute that creates some of the rules too. But the simple fact is, we were talking before we actually got to this point, if the county, the state, and the federal government does not force the administration to obey those rules, I can't do it. No, I can't do it. So, simple fact is, that's another call to action. Hold your county, state, and federal leaders responsible for what's going on here. Okay. But so we had that economic development piece. And as believe you me, between now and probably the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, myself, Alderman Brown, Alderman Drewinski, and Alderman Whittaker are probably going to be thrown just totally under the bus and the tires flattened, saying that we're probably the reason why, we don't have any economic development in this city. Okay. And they believe that a fuel center, a fuel center is a highfalutin way of saying a gas station, but that a fuel center was going to be the catalyst to basically revitalize the entire community. Yes, sir.
Well, you're talking about the fuel center on Dixie Highway just south of McDonald's. They were supposed to put up a strip mall, and they still got that sign up there. Is that supposed to also generate jobs in Harvard?
I don't know. But what I do know is this. If you don't use best practices, then you got a greater chance of failure. And that's why. Best practice. You have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. The reason why you have those three separate branches is so that you don't have one dictator telling everybody what it is they're supposed to do. Because there was a dictator by the name of George. He was a king who lived in England who was doing just that. And the people said, that's not good. That's not a best practice. We need to be able to separate these to a certain degree. Now, we know that there's a little overlapping. We know that. And politics will create that to a certain degree. But in general, as a general principle, that separation is important. We need to have a finance committee, a general services committee, and an economic development committee, because those committees need to be independent to make sure that the checks are actually there. Okay, along with the zoning and planning board, and the Board of Appeals, because they need to be there. That's the reason why you have those things in place. And if you go to other communities, they have them. You can go to Dixmoor, and Dixmoor has them. And you want to know what's so funny about that? Actually, not funny, it's ironic. Dixmoor got our Aldi's, they got the Subway, they got the stores that we were supposed to have. If people may say, well, you know what, yeah, there's some dysfunction there. But they have enough function towards best practices because they have those committees. And those businesses are there. And they have more going on that northwest corner of 147. And it's just absolutely amazing. But they have those committees too. So that's a best practice. Successful committees do what other successful committees do. Successful communities do what other successful communities do. Were you about to say something?
And because of that, that's a possibility of why people do not want to bring business into Harvard, because they know that it's no best practices here.
Right.
At all, that's who you know. but you know, and I've heard it from outside people who try to do it, and they just like the bank said, oh, it's hard, you know, it's like it's a stigma on this private gym. Now you tell me the bank, people who like to do this, like, people, if you wanna write a grant to get something, you're in Harvard, I don't do that. They're afraid, because they like, whenever it goes down, they don't wanna be in the middle of it. They don't wanna be pulled up under the carpet to be with a microscope on one of their time.
Well, the track record is basically there. It's just like a credit score. If you have not been paying your bills, and mind you, we just got sued the other day for $2 million more.
What is that?
Jeez. This stuff just never stops. The work on 167,
Okay.
right off Center, $2 million. The allegation is that $2 million was not paid to the construction company. The total bill was $4 million, and the allegation is that the city only paid them $2 million and refused to pay the other $2 million.
Get out of Dodge.
No, get out of Harvard.
Since you brought that up, Harvey used to be an economic engine. We had dealerships, stores, manufacturing, service entities, and banks. Count the number of banks in Harvey now. That's an indication of how your community's doing.
Well, you can't keep all these. I mean,
Right, something wrong.
that's just like, I don't even understand that one. But yeah, so we just got sued again. I got this notice. What was that? Tuesday? Yeah, this past Tuesday. So now, mind you, $2 million. Where'd it go?
Who's got it?
Because we don't know where it went. It just disappeared. $2 million. We don't know where the money went. No one's accounting for the money. We're being sued for it. We believe at some point in time they had it, but it wasn't paid to the people who were supposed to be paid to. In addition to that, now we're going to have to pay defense lawyers to defend it, which is going to cost us even more money for something we should have did in the first place. Mr. Reed.
Yeah, one question, Mike. Okay, now, this, Ricky Roberts, gas, fuel, or whatever, what exactly is it? You get stuff like that, and we don't have, like you said, we don't have a grocery store, we don't have a strip mall. When I was a kid, we had Burkheims on 154th and Charlton, now that store's in Midlothian, so, you know, what,
Yeah, Jewel and the rest of them. Yeah, more than that.
yeah, but that never,
I'm going back further. I've been here long.
Right, tell me about it.
Yeah, we did have some.
Where?
Actually, you'll find out there's a lot of stores that you see now that actually have their roots
In Harvey.
right here. I'm going to answer your question. Go ahead.
Maybe we need to stop doing the planning. What's the planning?
I can hear you.
The planning means.
Well, the planning meetings, what is it, every third or the second
It's the
Wednesday?
third Thursday.
Third Thursday
Yeah.
of the month.
Mhm.
Where are that on the schedule so we can be more aware of what's happening?
Where is that?
Zoning and planning meetings, I think that's what she's trying. Is that what you're saying? Zoning and planning meetings.
Where
At City Hall.
She was behind closed doors.
Same time, we have the evening, right?
Yes, 7 o'clock. Yeah, but here's the thing. Let me get back to your question real quick as far as, okay, zoning and planning, because I was a member of the zoning and planning board, okay? We need a comprehensive plan. We need a strategic plan. And when you're talking about economic development in your community, you can go to 100 million. See, this thing, we can go to 100 million city council meetings, special meetings, zoning and planning meetings. The bottom line is if we don't have a plan, then we are planning to fail.
Amen.
And when you look at, once again, successful communities do what other successful communities do. When you go to, I was on the zoning and planning board in 2003 when the mayor first took office. And so I went over to Crestwood.
Nice.
So I went over, what was that, Miss?
So how did that happen with the hotel? We have no idea what was going on with the hotel.
No, I wasn't on the zoning and planning. I was in 2003.
Except when they first started.
Yes. The hotel was in 2008. I was no longer on the zoning plan.
Got out.
Okay, and in addition, remember, and Mr. Irvin can attest to this, there are businesses that come into the city that never even go past the zoning and planning board. So once again-
No, the citizens need to know when this is done, where the meeting's at, because they can nip it at the bud. We can get whatever going on, can you stop if we like it, don't like it.
Okay, if you don't know it, how can you stop it?
Right,
That's
we-
why
we-
they don't tell us.
When we don't,
They don't tell you.
when we find out a bit about the business, it's open, it's running,
Because that is where our
the
problem.
people are there.
So, but I'm gonna finish it. So, when you go look at, I went to Crestwood, and I went to a Crestwood zone in the planning meeting, okay, because I was trying to learn how to be a better committee person.
Right.
So I asked them, I'm not afraid, hey, how you doing what you're doing? How'd you get all this stuff? Because I remember when I was younger, this was nothing but onion field.
Right.
So how did you do this? They said, we had a plan. I really? Yeah, it was for 30 years. And every 30 years, we renew that plan. This is what they told me. Can I see it? You sure can. And gave it to me. I immediately wrote a letter on what looks like United States of America letterhead, because I didn't have any other letterhead at that time. And I still have the letter. And I wrote that letter to the mayor saying that we needed to have a comprehensive plan for the city so that we could figure out how we were going to move forward economically through this city. That was in 2003. Haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it yet. So, simple fact is, until we start developing,
done, and they would seal those records so no one would know, so that fraud can continue at the expense of the residents, pretty much.
well, when they go before the judge is presuming certain things. The judge is presuming that, for instance, that the council had seen the documents, and that the council said we should go ahead and get these sealed. Okay. The attorney comes up, and the attorney says, you know, Your Honor, I'm here on behalf of the city of Harvey, so we have this motion to seal the documents. We're asking for the court's permission to seal the documents. There's nobody objecting from the other side. Of course, we don't know about the court situation, so we can't stand up and say, heck no, you know what I'm saying? You can't seal those documents because we don't know about it. So then the judge is saying, oh, okay, and the judge is looking at the judge saying, okay, reads the motion, the judge already read the motion. Judge says, okay, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's sealed.
That goes back to what she's asking, if it was those planning meetings, if they don't tell us about what's the agenda on those meetings, then how are we gonna know anything?
Well, and that's one of the problems that we have.
You come to the council, you should see it, list of whatever was done.
I have gone to the council
I
meeting.
know what I'm saying, the sheet that you have, whatever was discussed in that, in those meetings will be on there. Okay, and that means for them, August has to pass.
That's for the things that they're telling you, not the things they're not telling you. And that's the part that we need to understand. This document, they did not, let me finish. This document, Ms. Smith, they did not tell us.
But that means
Okay.
that someone had, like she just said, we go to the meetings. If you don't go, you wouldn't know. But if some of the rest of us go, they hear what's going on.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when he was saying that when,
Okay.
just like they went to court, if you go to court and, okay, I'm trying to break it all the way down. So I go to court, I have pricing. If that person who I had to ask them when don't show up, the judge is gonna throw it out. Because I didn't show up. So if Harvey has their representative, their attorney to go up to that courthouse and like you said, the judge is assuming that,
So
best practice is that everybody agreed to it and they did not agree to it, so that's why I was saying. But if we don't know it went to court, if we don't even know, how do we even know they went to court? So if I went to a planning meeting and they didn't put on their planning meeting that this issue is gonna go to court to seal the record, then how am I gonna know?
Because the planning meeting and court things a totally different thing.
Okay, gotcha. I need to wrap this up because we do have a limited amount of time though. But basically, how can you help? Okay. First thing, and I'm gonna push this until forever, get more people to use the app, okay? Now, there are some people, I was the first accepting the fact that there are some people who just don't have smartphone. I was accepting that one. But I know doggone well you got a child, and you can't tell me that a child or a grandchild or niece or a nephew or somebody is going to let themselves go through the world, even though you may not have a smartphone. They're going to let themselves go through the world without a smartphone. That's like you saying that your grandchild is going to let themselves go through the world without a computer. Just not going to happen. So, download the app. Okay, go to your Google Play or your Microsoft or your Apple Store and just type in Third Ward. Download the app. It is our way of communicating. Okay, it's our way of letting you know what's going on in the ward, and it's also your way of contacting me. And I'll give you an example. I had someone contact me a few days ago. I was actually in the hospital, not the hospital, at the doctor visit with my mother. And they were talking about the tall grass. And I think that it came through at 3:10 that day, through the app. And by 3:24, I had already resolved the issue. By 3:24 that afternoon, I had already resolved his issue in 14 minutes. Now, there are people who call me on this phone, and it fills up the voicemail, so then they can't get through. Now, they get frustrated. And they get frustrated with me, even though I'm not the person that designed this thing. But they get frustrated with me because the voicemail is full. And by the time I empty out the voicemail, it is filled again because more and more people are trying to call, which is the reason why I designed the app, so that you could get to me and we can have a nice methodical order and create a best practice for handling your issues. Use the app. But outside of that, form a block club. Just really that simple. Form a block club. I'm out cutting grass. I'm out trying to do as much as I possibly can. If you had a block club, you guys could get together on a day and say, you know what? Clark cut down that lot. Let's rake it up, sweep it up, and make it look good. And it only takes a few people to do it. That's all. And I'm going to go back to the young folks because I understand how it is to not have your bones work the way that they used to.
Amen.
But the simple fact is, when the nephews and the nieces and the grandkids and the kids come over, put them out there. Get them out there. Hey, give them $1 or something. Put them out there and say, hey, do this. Or just have them do it because it's the right thing to do. You know. And then that's just basically it. It's our community. But last but not least, just do something consistently. So, whatever it is that you want to commit to, it doesn't make any difference what it is. If you say every day, when I go to walk to my car, I'm going to reach down, I'm going to pick up a piece of trash. Then do that every day when you walk to your car. Find that one thing that you can do consistently that's not too much of a burden on you. I'm not asking you to build the Willis Tower or anything like that. I'm just saying find that one little thing that you can do that's not too much of a burden on you and do it consistently. That's it. If you say every day, I'm going to go down and I'm going to knock on one neighbor's door and see if they know what's going on in the ward. Or one day, every day for 5 minutes. I'm going to put in 5 minutes. He ain't getting no more than 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, I'm going to tell people about the app. I'm going to find out if a neighbor knows about the app. Whatever it is, do something and do it consistently. Because if the people in this room create that consistent behavior, and then you spread it on to others, and it becomes more consistent, next thing you know, your block is clean. And your grass is cut. And things are taken care of because you're consistently doing it. I consistently, every day, get out and talk to people in the world. That's one of the things that's consistent for me. I have to do that. If I don't do anything else in my day, I have to get out. I have to talk directly to people in the ward, face to face. I have to. And that's my consistent thing. Usually it takes a little bit longer, but that's what I have to do. Find your thing on your block. I want to make sure that that one sapling over there does not become a tree. cut it down before it gets, we know, saplings get to be trees, our work becomes harder. So the simple fact is, that's what, yes ma'am.
Honor right there. And how many from that street in my block is here today? How many? Oh, I can go today. Oh, I don't feel good. But if you say that some big something is going on, like the water, hey, remember?
Mm-hmm.
The church was full.
Mm-hmm.
But see, you ain't talking about that. You ain't talking in the block club. That's how you gonna get a block club. Can't even get them to me.
Because block clubs, every club has started one person at a time.
One person.
And that's why I have said from the very beginning, if you have a block club of 1, I will support you. If you have a block club of 2, I will support you. Because you gotta have one person in order to make 2. Okay, you gotta build on one person at a time. So yes, I understand. People did some things with me this past week that I didn't expect. I had folks bring me out water while I was out cutting grass, and bring me out solar while I was out cutting grass. I didn't expect it. I'm just getting out there cutting the grass, and it's for them to observe. And I met some people that I had never met before. Knocked on their doors. I knocked on their doors several times throughout the campaign and several times throughout this year. When I got out and cut that grass across the street from their house, that lady came out there. So you never know what that one thing is that's going to make that difference. But whatever it is that you do it consistently. That's all.
They
Yes, sir.
wanted a block club over there when the bad house was there. When the bad house closed down, they wanted a block club.
But if you were
Yes.
giving away a turkey or something
Yeah.
like this place be running over.
And you know what? But see, here's the thing, and then I'm gonna get to you, and then we're gonna close. 1, let's go back to the Montgomery boycott, okay? Because that becomes such a, in history, it becomes this thing like everything was just so easy. They just sat down, they said, hey, we gonna boycott the buses, we gonna walk, and everybody good. And when you look at it on TV, that looks great. It's a great idea. And I don't know how many of you actually did some walking during that time. But the simple fact is, let's go to the reality of it all. The reality of it all, you were talking about people who were scared and intimidated by a particular racial group, okay, that wanted to be left alone themselves. I don't care if you bother those people over there. Just don't hang my child, don't hang my husband. That's what they wanted. And so at the end of the day, when you got ready to deal with this bus boycott, they knew that there was going to be some backlash to that. Okay? And Martin Luther King and all the people in Ralph Abernathy that was putting it together, they understood that there was probably a core group of 20 that was really going to do a lot of this work. Okay? And they knew it was going to take a lot of work to get the information out to the people. And what did they have to do? They gave away chicken dinners. That's exactly what they did. Mm-hmm. They gave away prizes. They made sure they found shoes for people. People who didn't have the ability or they lived and walked too far, they had to create car systems so that people could participate in what they wanted them to participate in. So yes, if we give away a turkey, then yes, if I give away a turkey, it's probably the whole place be full. And there may come that time. But like I said in the beginning, what I believe that the people here today, that those are the true leaders. And those are the people who are going to be the core of what we're going to do. And we may have to create and take some creative steps in order to make it happen. But the Montgomery bus boycott just didn't happen like it looks on the good movies that they made. You know what I'm saying? In living color. It didn't happen that way. And I know doggone well, in order for them to get them people to come out and fill that church. Because see, when Martin Luther King wasn't speaking, how many people you think was in the church then? Probably fewer. And they had to give away turkeys. They had to put something in the people's hand to make it in their interest. And we're going to do that. And we're going to work to do that, to bring more interest. Everybody who comes in their door is not interested in necessarily doing right for the sake of doing right. They want to know how they're going to benefit, how their family going to benefit, how they're going to be protected. We have people out there right now that know that there are things wrong in this city, but they're afraid to move forward because they don't want their family to be threatened. So we understand. But what we're going to do is we're going to face the fear. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to figure out ways to get more people involved. But the one thing that will never get people involved is we sit on our hind parts and do nothing. It takes each and every person in here to get up and say, one day, every day, I'm going to do one thing, and I'm going to do it consistently. That's it. And when we can do that, I think that we can make a significant difference. And you, on your block, they'll see it. It'll be that one thing that you really don't expect for them to see is going to be that thing that's going to make a difference. Just like that lady whose door I knocked on over and over again. She never came to the door. She was home. She never came to the door. That one day when I was out there cutting that grass, she decided to come out and talk to me. So just keep doing what you're doing. Don't be dissuaded by it because you're planting a seed and you're going to reap a harvest. And then after that, I'm going to close.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank either you or whomever finally started catching our beautiful streets.
Well, that's not me. I'll tell you right now. Because I still haven't gotten the patch where I want it at.
I understood.
But we have been able to get some done.
Yeah, that's not the best strategy because a good rain, that's gone. And second of all, people remember the scripture. You always have a core group. Jesus didn't have 1,000 people, he had 12.
And on that note,
You're right.
pass.
I agree with you 1,000%.
No, I'm past the turn.
Yeah. Would you like to close us out, your friend?
Sure.
Does anybody, before you go, I don't know when our next meeting is. I'm assuming it's next month.
2 months. It's in August.
Yeah, because
It's every other month.
I just use the app. So that's how I should figure out how I'm actually doing this thing. But for those, I want to make sure that I know because for those people who are probably going to be watching this at some point in time, I want to make sure that they know. August 13th is our next third ward meeting. If you have issues, grass issues or whatever, people have really been calling me about that. Call me and let me know. If you got neighbors or friends or something like that, tell them to contact me and let me know. When you're contacting them, when you're telling them to contact me, be like, girl, you got that app? Because that's just the best way to get me. But if not, if they call me, that'll be fine as well. Just once again, thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate all of you. And thank you for your input.
Right.
Your input is going to be key because with everything that I said today, and remember, keep this in your mind, best practices. Because we're going to start putting together an agenda based on best practices. And those are the things that's going to help to develop this community and move it forward, I believe. Pastor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Alderman Clark. We are glad to have you as usual to be an exemplified person to welcome you to build up this third ward. And by building up the third ward, it not only helped the third ward, but